Welcome everybody to the webinar. Today we're talking, as you know, with Steele rubber products. And first thing that I wanted to do is a screen share as CarBuff Network. We host these webinars once a month, and we bring in a manufacturer, usually a manufacturer, to talk about as a company where they came from, how they started. And in this case, we've got a company that's been around for 66 years, I think it is. I think that's what I calculated.
Yep.
In its third generation, which is pretty unique. So that's kind of cool. And we want to learn a little more about how that has evolved. And then as CarBuff Network, our goal is to connect people, connect shops and manufacturers, and try and help enthusiasts figure out who's involved in the build. Often it can be difficult to figure out whose parts are on a vehicle, and CarBuff Network makes it a lot easier to figure out who's involved in the build. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here. I'm going to Steele Rubber Products website. Are you guys seeing that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so what we do with CarBuff is we have some tools that we program and pass the code along to the manufacturers, and they're able to put those tools on their own websites. And this right here is the newsfeed specific to Steele Rubber Products. So anytime Steele Rubber Products is tagged in a post or by a vehicle build, or Steele Rubber puts a new product out on CarBuff Network, it all goes into this newsfeed, including events that they plan to attend. So that's what the newsfeed does. And then also they can share customer builds that have their products. So we actually feed the vehicles into Steele Rubber Products website that tags them on the build. So this is a great way for Steele Rubber to promote the builds they're involved with, promote their customers and the shops that they work with. But on the flip side, it's great exposure for the shops and other ambassadors or enthusiasts that Steele Rubber works with. So it goes both ways, but it's easy for Steele Rubber, and you guys might talk about this a little bit, but as Steele Rubber Products is tagged in the build and the build is published, that vehicle goes automatically onto the website. So we try to make it really easy for companies to work with their customers to promote the builds. So I would like to introduce Danny Augusta. I've known Danny for probably about maybe 10 or 12 years.
Yep.
We went to SEMA as CarBuff Network for the first time about 15 years ago. And Steele Rubber Products was one of the first companies that we were able to connect with there at the show. And so we've known each other for quite a while. But Danny, what I'd like you to do is just give us a little bit of background on your company and on yourself, and then we'd like you to introduce your team that was able to be on the call. And so the questions or the things that we'd like to know about you guys individually is why did you sorry, I'm reading the questions here, and now I'm looking for my questions. I lost them. Well, I'll do it by memory. So, how did you get into the industry? What is your responsibility at Steel Rubber Products? And then we'd also like to ask you, what is your dream build or your favorite vehicle? So, Danny, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Trent. For the history of the company, so Steel Rubber Products, it's a family company. It was founded by my grandfather in 1958. The story is essentially he was always a car guy. He had about 80, 90 cars in his lifetime, everything from little junkers to Bugattis, Cadillacs, Packards. He's always a big car guy. And in the 50s, he was in the middle of restoring a 1931 Cadillac V12. And he's part of a club, Cadillac LaSalle Club, but no one had the part he was looking for. It's a rubber part. So his trade was tool and die. So he made dies for parts. He was working in Detroit. They were supplying tier one auto manufacturers. So he had the know-how to make a mold. So he could do that. And down the street from his shop was a rubber factory. And he rented some time over there and made the part that he needed. And being a part of that club, word spread pretty quick that he had this part because everyone needed it. And he would get requests for this part and this one and these little things over here. So he started making more, and it kind of became a side business, and then it became a full-time business. The company was incorporated in 58, and it's pretty much a full-time business by 62. So fast forward a little bit, in 1974, he moves the company from Detroit down to North Carolina, where we are today, same location. We're offering 15,000 SKUs now. So just creating more parts, different things. He retired in 89, and my dad took over the company, and he retired in 19. So they both led the company for about 30 years. In that time, we went from the majority of our sales being at car shows to creating catalogs and having catalog orders, phone, website, the typical evolution of everybody. My dad, when he took over the company in 89, got heavily involved in SEMA in the early 90s. And that was really beneficial for us. I mean, especially in the 90s, SEMA was the place to be noticed, where a small company can look like a big company. And, I think that effort in particular put us on a whole different level. The way we would advertise. I mean, people are always shocked that we're a small company. We've got about 60 employees. So fast forward to today, it's being ran by the third generation, me and my sister. My sister is the president of the company. My aunt is the HR manager. She's still an owner, the second generation. We've got some cousins that work for us. So there's still a lot of family in the business. And then we also have a lot of families that work for us, I think, because of that environment where, husbands and wives, parents and children, I think they just enjoy the environment. So we're very excited to say that we're still family owned. In this industry, how people get, sold, and the telltale story of how that goes. So being a family owned company, we still have a lot of control of how our customers are dealt with and what we do as a company, because we can do what we think is right rather than what someone else is telling us to do. That's basically the history of the company, how it started and how it came to be where we're at now. So for me, I'm the senior sales and marketing manager. I manage marketing, sales, customer service, and research and development.
CarBuff.
Oh, okay. Hey, Matt, there you go.
So wear a lot of hats. But I've been working here at the business full time for 13 years. But I've been around the business for 22 years, doing small jobs in summer and stuff like that when I was in school. But I've got to work in different departments, from production and packaging and sending out catalogs to distribution and tooling, customer service and marketing. So I have a really good opportunity to see the business from different angles. So while I manage those departments, I'm also very involved in our manufacturing processes. I just really enjoy what we do. So I'm completely sold in, and I like all aspects of the business. How did I get into the industry? A little bit born into it, but growing up, I never really paid too much attention to what my dad was doing. But he would take me to car shows, and that I cared about, and I really enjoyed. And I remember probably 6 or 7 years old going to a car show, and he was just pointing at cars and telling me the year, make, model. That's a 67 Eldorado, that's a 57 4-door, that's a 61 Corvette. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, just to be able to, from a distance, tell you what year, make, model a car was. And of course, once you do this for a long time, you can do that too. But that, to me, it was just a kind of a core memory of getting the itch to know more about cars. As far as what my dream build would be or favorite vehicle, that's one of the toughest questions. I never have a good answer. I like so many things. If I had money, I'd be terrible at collecting. But I've always liked big cars. So, early 60s, or like my dad, he had a 67 Eldorado, 69 Eldorado, 57 Seville. My grandfather had that 31 Cadillac. I just like big cars. So, but probably early 60s boats, Lincolns, Cadillacs, convertibles. That's kind of what I really like and would do a build on. I like the slammed look and just that straight line from headlight to tail light. That's kind of what I dig.
Do you think you'll ever build one?
Yeah, right now I have 3 kids, so I'm not building anything but erector sets and cribs, but absolutely, yeah. I enjoy the process. I've got an opportunity to work on a lot of cars. I do our how-to videos and stuff, so I've had the opportunity to work on the weather stripping aspect, but mechanics and stuff, I haven't dealt more than a head gasket replacement, that kind of thing. Mechanics aren't really where I find enjoyment. I like body work. That's kind of where I really look back and appreciate what people have done. But yeah, absolutely, I'll build something.
Yeah, for years. So I've sold insurance for 22 years, and my niche has been collector vehicles. And over the 22 years, my clients have asked me, what would I build? I never really knew. I always said I had 4 hot rods, and they were my kids. So I completely understand. Yeah. So Chelsea, we'll turn the time over to you for a couple of minutes to introduce yourself.
All right. My name is Chelsea. I am the social media coordinator here at Steele. So I, of course, handle our social media platforms and essentially any content that will go onto our social media platforms. I do a lot of the content planning for the content team here at Steele. So anything kind of from if we need to go to our studio to film a video, film an installation, when we're going to shows, kind of making a schedule of our interviews and basically keeping up with our equipment that we need to make our content. And then any of the content on social media, our blog, YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. A lot of other little small things. as Danny said, and I'm sure John will say as well, we all wear many hats. So that's very true for everyone here. I got into the industry from actually a few different aspects. My parents worked in the automotive industry as in like a tow and recovery place really my whole childhood up until like late teenagers. But they would always be driving different vehicles because if a vehicle stays there long enough, they can sell it. Obviously, they can get the title for it, but anytime a cool car would come in, my dad would drive it home. They would drive it for, you know, a little bit with the dealer tag. And I liked that. I started enjoying the differences between the vehicles that they would drive and if they were nice and stuff like that. So I kind of just started to appreciate cars at a young age. And I've enjoyed going to car shows even before I started working here. But my sister actually worked here when I was in high school a while ago, and she actually met Danny, married Danny. So Danny's my brother-in-law. He's so lucky. But then I started working here about 3.5, almost 4 years ago, as a marketing assistant, and absolutely fell in love with it. I love marketing in general. I've always loved social media and basically just creating content. Didn't know at that time I was creating content and basically was just um, thought I was just posting on social media a lot, but it really helped me kind of get into my role here as social media coordinator, which I eventually moved to. And I really just have such a deep appreciation for classic cars or any type of build. Really, it doesn't have to be a classic vehicle, but there are so many things that go into it. And I'm really glad that I have that appreciation and that I can go to these shows and see all of these amazing vehicles and talk to builders, you know, and even learn more about them. I really like that aspect of my job. My favorite car or my dream build, I have a few. I really love late 60s vehicles. I think that's probably honestly from about 67 to 69 is probably my favorite years for classic cars. Especially a Camaro, 69 Camaro is probably my favorite vehicle. Or like a 69 K5. And I also love Nomad, any type of like wagon vehicle. I love those as well, late 60s. So I really can't choose one. If I could do any kind of dream build, it would just to be something very different. I love black, all black, blacking things out, lowered, anything like that, that just kind of, I don't know, has a standout feature and not your typical classic car restoration, I guess, but there might not be a typical restoration. I'm not sure because there's so many different things. So, um, but yeah, I think that's all about me.
I don't think there is a typical car. People kind of gravitate to what they enjoyed maybe as a kid, and then we kind of modify it and change it from what it was even back then. So yeah, that's what I think really makes the automotive industry work, is there are so many different ideas about what a car should be like. So John, are you able to turn your video on, or are you just going to be talking to us today without video? It's possible his isn't working. Is he in the building with you guys?
He's not. I texted him. He's having some issues
Okay.
with getting the video turned on. But it sounds like there might be some audio issues as well.
I wonder if he could just call you. Can you call him on your cell phone and put him on speaker? We've had to do that before, and that works okay. So, it's really good for us, Chelsea, to get to know you guys a little bit better from the customer standpoint. So often people don't really know who's behind the brand, and so it's good for, I think, the general public to see really kind of the inner workings of the companies, which is why we like to know about you individually. And then we'll get into more of the marketing questions here in a few minutes. But while we're waiting, are you guys connected, Danny?
Yep, I've got him.
Okay. John, can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Good. Sorry about that technical
Oh, I'm
challenge.
sorry. I'm not sure what's going on with my Zoom.
Yeah, we've got a couple people on the panel that can't get in. I'm not sure why, so I'll have to check on that later. But what we'd like is to know just a little bit about you. So if you could answer a couple of questions. One is, how did you get into the industry? Second, what do you do? What is your role or roles at Steel Rubber Products? And then the third is, what is your favorite vehicle or your dream build?
So I'm John McMillan, and I guess how did I get in the industry? I've always been interested in cars. My mom tells me when I was before I could walk, I would take my father's shoes and push them around on the carpet and make engine noises. So I've always just, in young teenager, my friends would buy Spider-Man and Superman comic books at the store, and I would buy Hot Rod, Carcraft, and magazines and read them from cover to cover. And I just always had an interest in cars. I was a mechanic out of high school. I went to technical school and became a mechanic. I would love to build engines. So that transitioned into working for a Cummins diesel company as one of their engine builders. They had a research and development group where I worked, and so I did a lot of engine building for that, which involved into working as a mechanical engineer. I worked for Eaton and Ford and Aeroquip, and as a mechanical and manufacturing engineer. And then mid 2000s, I kind of changed directions and went back to school and got a marketing degree, actually a motorsports marketing degree. I've always had an interest in racing too. And so I've worked for a couple of race teams, and then 6 years ago, I came to Steele. So currently I work in, my job title is research and development, but I do product development, new parts. And as Chelsea and Danny have said, it's a small company here at Steele, and you wear many hats. And so I help out with production, and, tooling, just wherever, I can plug in and give a helpful hand and keep things going. Marketing, so I'm underneath the marketing umbrella. And then dream car, that's ever evolving. I currently own 7 cars. I think only 3 of them currently run, but there's always, always working on one of them. I've always had a love for Ford, the Cosmo Panateras, and I had a really nice Nova for a couple of years. That was one of my dream cars. And over time, your dreams kind of change. And I think my next dream car is probably just going to be a Class C motorhome that I can take to races and car shows and spend overnight comfortably. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, John. Yeah, for me, my dream car has been something that would fit the whole family for, well, my kids have been growing up. So yeah, it does evolve. Maybe eventually it'll be a 2-seat car. I don't know. So I want to introduce really quickly. I'm just going to run through the list of who's on this call from the CB7. The CB7, it's a group of people that I've met along the way in the last probably 17 years. And this is kind of an advisory group for CarBuff Network. They're fabricators, manufacturing, engineers, you name it. We cover a lot of different aspects in the auto industry and a ton of experience in this group. And I feel very lucky to be associated with CB7, with this group of people. So run through the list real quick of who is on the call from CB7, and starting with Danny. Danny is part of CB7. You know, you've heard about him, but he just is something he didn't mention is that he's very involved with the Hot Rod Industry Alliance and has worn many hats in that organization. It's the biggest association within SEMA. I think there's 16 associations, and Hot Rod Industry Alliance is the largest, and Danny was the chairman for that, and has just done a lot for the industry through in that capacity and others. So anyways, having Danny part of CB7 gives us a lot of experience within the SEMA organization. We've got Brent Hughes. Brent started BJ's full-size Jeep parts, and they are the go-to in the industry for full-size Jeep products, and was very involved in our Wagoneer build that we took to SEMA a couple of years ago. Dom Tucci with Dom Tucci Design and Tucci Hot Rods. I've known Dom and his dad Dave for probably 10 years and stayed at their place in New York, and just extremely talented in design, printing, all that kind of stuff. Done projects with Ford, and just very knowledgeable. And Dom is a man of few words. So when he says something needs to go a certain way, we generally go that way, because he just doesn't say a whole lot until he has an opinion. Just very supportive. Kyle Kuhnhausen. Kyle's probably one of the best fabricators on the internet and social media, but Kyle's the real deal as far as welding goes and fabricating. And so just the experience, the knowledge, as young as Kyle is and as good as he is, again, just gives us another kind of a lot of depth to CarBuff, or to CB7. And this group, it's pretty awesome within the CB7. There's a lot of overlap in capability in the group, but also everybody has their own kind of niche in the industry, and has a lot of respect for each other. So Lucas Kraft. Lucas he kind of grew up in the industry around the car detailing products, but also his family's built a lot of cars. And then Lucas has his own YouTube channel. He and his dad Rod build Jeeps, and Lucas is actually a brand ambassador for quite a few brands, and they go around the country and to events, taking their Jeeps to different events. And so they're always working on something really interesting, and at the same time are in also the kind of the professional world, you and your dad, and do a lot of stuff in that. On the professional side, I say professional, not that YouTubing isn't professional, but you know what I mean. Matt Zerbrick. Matt owns 5 O'Clock Garage, is in Detroit, and has a lot of connections in the car world in Detroit. does a lot of testing for companies like Magnuson and others. They just built put a hurricane motor in a Challenger and took it to what was that, Matt? Now I can't think of
We took my twin turbo Demon motor and put the Hurricane in my Demon.
There we go. Yeah, so Matt's always doing something a little bit crazy. And he was very involved in the Wagoneer build. He 3D printed some really cool metal stuff and all the graphics, and Matt came up with a process for 3D printing and does that for Jeep and other of the OEs. So Matt's very involved in a lot of that OE business, and they ship him things and he tests them out and usually breaks them and then gives them feedback. So Michael Pettis is with Eddie's Rod and Custom. They do very high-end builds, typically 250,000 and up. And so him and Kyle Kuhnhausen are kind of competing each other at the high levels with each other on Corvettes and other builds. But they run a shop with about between 12 and 15 people and give us a good, well-rounded understanding of, from the perspective of a shop, and how that works in the industry and in different needs that we can address as CarBuff from a shop perspective. We've got Terry McGeehan. Terry's been with Hemmings for 12 years and Motor Trend and other companies prior to that. But when you talk about technical knowledge and reading magazines as a kid, Terry was probably writing the magazines when we were kids. I'm kind of kidding. But Terry has a ton of experience on the media side and the print media and content creation side of the business. And so it brings a lot of experience from that perspective, working with manufacturers and car builders. We've got Tom Maddock. And I just lost. I'm looking down the list here on the chat side. I hope I don't miss it. If I miss you, let me know. Tom Maddock is also full-time YouTube. He converted from a chemical engineering job to full-time car building, mainly off-road and recovery builds. And so again, gives us good perspective from the content creation / influencer part of the world, and has also helped us on our own projects. And as far as fabricating goes, Tom has been fabricating for 30 years, put himself through college fabricating. So just a lot of experience with that. And then Zach Zamudio. Zach owns Pyramid Optimized, has about 10 engineers in his company, created the valve covers that we run on the Hemi in the Wagoneer that we took to SEMA, and is making the wheels for the Chevelle. We're taking to SEMA this year. Zach does a lot of really kind of out of the box stuff for the industry. A lot of the well-known builders work with Zach on designing and actually manufacturing one-off projects. And Zach is getting into more of the manufacturing, more than just custom stuff. So that's CB7. Did I miss anybody that's actually on the call? I know a few guys weren't able to get on the call. Okay, so we've got 25 minutes left. We have a list of questions that we have given to the folks at Steele Rubber Products so they could be ready for them. We're going to try and keep the question or the answers to around a couple of minutes. And so I'm going to start with a question for Danny. And Danny, my question for you is about CarBuff and you working with CarBuff as a company. So first question, why did you decide to start working with CarBuff Network? And how does CarBuff help you brand your company in the industry?
Yeah. So, I think me and you met maybe 2013. That was my first year to SEMA. And CarBuff is, just it's such a cool idea. Marketing is kind of where my mind is a lot of times. And, it's a tool that doesn't exist anywhere else in the industry. Something to connect builders and manufacturers pretty much effortlessly. Unless you're mining data and you're well versed in the industry, and you know what to look for, CarBuff kind of hands you a lot of things on the silver platter. And I remember you pulling up our profile, and we already had some builds attached to it. And a little bit of that, and you see perhaps builders I'm very familiar with, perhaps builders I was not aware of, builds that I wasn't aware that we were involved in. And because the builder's not reaching out to us directly, they're on one platform, putting everything down, and we get notified. So I thought that was, really cool. And you told me the price of it, and I was shocked, and it was definitely worth that. But now, as far as our branding and brand awareness goes, like you showed, we have the scroller on our website. So, someone goes onto our website and they can see, who's using us, and perhaps they're familiar with that builder. Perhaps they've seen that car or truck at a show. So there's a little bit of that, but then also those builds are, they're on Edelbrock's website as well. Edelbrock has a lot more traffic to their website than we do. So someone clicks on that vehicle and they'll see our name there. On almost every picture on CarBuff, you don't see any weather stripping. I can tell you from a mile away if a car has Willwood brakes on it. But with weather stripping, it's a little bit more difficult to tell. So CarBuff is a cool tool for us, because it points it out without having to, have our logo on the seal and have a picture of it. So it helps people who are looking at those builds find us, see that we're involved in it, and we leverage that to then display those vehicles to our customers and people on our website.
Awesome. That's the plan. That's our goal. Lucas, I'm going to let you ask the next question.
So this is for Chelsea. What do you guys look for in a brand ambassador?
So, in a brand ambassador, we are looking for someone who is typically going to be like a loyal customer of ours already, and a brand super fan, essentially. They genuinely love Steel Rubber Products as a brand, not just our products, but our company, and who we are as a business. So we are typically looking for someone like that who has a good following of their own, and established, social media following, whether that's on the typical social media platforms or YouTube, anything like that, as well as being well integrated in the automotive industry and known as a trusted source per se. So we want the users and the viewers to have a genuine connection to this brand ambassador, this person, so that they can know if this person is promoting a product, it's because they genuinely believe in this product, and they trust that this person would use high quality products and a product that would actually work, versus just getting some kind of like paycheck for endorsing a product. There's an oversaturation of the typical influencer on all social media platforms right now. And not that just a regular influencer is bad by any means. It's just there's a lot of doubt, I feel like, that has come about with the typical influencer. Feels much more like a transaction. They're just kind of promoting because it's their job. That's what they do. That's how they make their money. And users don't really feel like they can trust whether the product is actually good or whether they're just being sold to by a good piece of content, you know? So we just kind of want to have someone who's not going to create those questions and um, just have a genuine connection and a good trust built up with their following.
Right. Yep. We would agree. It's the relationship is what it really comes down to there. Dom, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. So my question's for John. Since there's so many different types of vehicles and different models, how do you guys choose which ones to prioritize to develop products for? How do you
Well,
pick those basically?
it's tough, and sometimes the vehicle I may love may not be a good business decision to make parts for. I think there's three things we kind of look at when we're deciding if we're going to make a part or not. The first one, I kind of think of it as play the hot hand. What parts are we currently making now for vehicles that are selling really well? Leverage that vehicle and make other parts that will fill a void. 6 years ago when I first came to Steele, they were a year or maybe 2 years into making Lincoln Continental parts, 61 through 63, and then 64 through 65 Lincoln Continental parts. Well, those parts sold and are selling really well. So we had a good relationship with a gentleman in Tennessee that could provide originals for us. We kept playing that a hand out. We kept um, um, we started out with bigger parts, windshield gaskets and door gaskets and hardtop roof rails, and we moved on to convertible parts and door filler caps and taillight to body gaskets, and now we have a pretty good I think offering of all the rubber parts on Lincoln Continental. So play the hot hand. The second thing is listen to your customer. You know, um, so we have a kind of a generic contact us at steelrubber.com email address. Customers can send in an email telling us they need door gaskets for a Chevrolet Astro van. And we got a ton of those. We really did. And I actually have one of my morning tasks every morning is I'm kind of old school, and I keep an Excel spreadsheet and I just record, what people are asking for. And we got a ton of requests for Chevrolet Astro van. Not a very sexy vehicle, but that's what people were asking for. So it just so happened that we had a company vehicle that was a Chevrolet Astro van. And one day, after a meeting, Matt, Danny's father, went outside and started pulling these perfectly good gaskets off the company Chevrolet Astro van, and we made the parts, and they've been very successful for us. So listen to your customer, and they'll tell you what they want. And then I guess the third thing is sort of just pay attention to where the industry's going. I think particularly in the last couple of years, we've seen a shift and I think Chevrolets and or excuse me, Camaros and Mustangs and Corvettes will always be popular, but We've certainly seen a shift into Chevrolet C10 trucks and Ford F100s and the Dodge trucks. And so, you know, 30 years ago, when I was a young pup, those were work vehicles, and now they're hot rods, and people are putting LS engines in Chevrolet trucks and making them hot rods. So those are, you know, so listen to the end, so play the hot hand, listen to your customer, and pay attention to the industry. There might be a test. I think those are sort of the three elements that we kind of follow most closely when deciding to make a new part.
Thanks, John. Tom, let's go to you.
Let me unmute there. My question is for Chelsea. How can shops and content creators work with you on social media?
So there's kind of a lot of ways. What we really look for, what really resonates most, I feel like with our target audience per se would be you know, builders or shops or even just someone in their own garage building their own vehicle. It doesn't have to be someone building a car for someone else. Then posting progress videos or just basically the process of installing our parts or what our parts basically did for the vehicle in the process stage or the building stage versus just photos of the end process. We are a part of every build that we're on, obviously, and we love seeing finished products of the vehicles because they're beautiful. However, it's, you know, you don't look for the weather stripping when you're looking at a finished vehicle. I mean, we do, but I'm sure that none of you, if you're at a show, you're like, I have to see this trunk gasket. That's what I'm really looking for. So whenever, you know, there's some kind of video being posted or photos or something like that of just that process, it kind of draws more attention and awareness to how important weather stripping can be and really how anybody can do it. I feel like a lot of people may have some really big hesitancies thinking that it's too big of a job or what else. But things like that are really just going to resonate more. And I feel like do more than posting just, you know, you should buy this product. You should buy this product because it's good and because it was this price or anything like that. People really have to have, I feel like, more education to be really influenced with something like that. But the typical platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, even blogs. We have a blog ourselves, and I think that a lot of people really look for blog articles because it's not only easier to follow if you're really truly trying to do an installation or have a step by step versus a video sometimes, but you can put a little more of your thoughts into a blog article. So all of those things are really ways that, you know, we can work together, collaborate on social media.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea. All right, let's go to Zach.
My question is for Danny. I was curious if you guys are open to working with other companies to develop new products.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we're a manufacturer, and we do all of our own tooling and design. We've worked with companies to make custom products. You know, at the end of the day, we have to figure out, you know, how we make it make business sense. But you know, I had a conversation with Kyle not too long ago about some bushings, and you know, those would be something that we would entertain. And you know, because you know, we're talking about something that maybe has kind of universal appeal across the broader market. You know, Kelly from V8 Resto was asking about exhaust hangers. You know, that's something we'd be interested in because no one makes exhaust hangers for the Roadster shop chassis. You know, so there's different things. We work with a company in the industry making a rubber boot for a steering column grommet. So yeah, we do things on a contract basis, you know, where a customer may pay for and own the mold, and we are basically producing the part for them. Or if it's something that may have more general appeal, we'll take on the cost of the mold and sell it to the general public. But yeah, we work with custom builders for boats, making seals for compartment doors and all kinds of custom stuff. We have a lot of companies that makes, you know, small run military grade tag along campers. So there's always something fun kind of project that someone's needing a seal for, or a molded item. And yeah, we absolutely work with other companies to make products just for them.
That's awesome. Do you ever do any kind of like rapid prototyping type weird little castings and things like that, or do you just kind of like assess it and figure out if you're going to go straight to hard tooling or what?
Yeah, about the level of prototyping that we're doing, we're actually you know, we'll do like a 3D model, 3D print. We're looking at 3D printing elastomers, where we can actually, you know, the materials for 3D printing are coming very far, very fast. Where you're doing rubber printing, I don't know the 3D printing stuff. It's not the additive where you're, you know, scrolling around and adding material. It's where you're pulling it out of a pool of plastic. So the rubber material that you can get out of that's actually pretty legit nowadays. So that's where we'll be heading in the next few years. We've just got some equipment in here for scanning. So that rapid prototyping is something we are going to be able to do faster. But a lot of people need like a seal, like a profile, an extrusion. And that prototyping is extremely fast just because the tooling is minimal. And since we have control over, you know, our extruder's 100 feet from this desk, we can run 20 feet and be able to get to somebody where most rubber manufacturers, if not all, don't deal in small quantities like that. You know, you're going to need to buy 5,000 feet before you can get a profile of anything.
That's good to know because my life is prototyping. So
yeah, let me know what you need.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Let's go to Michael.
Hey, how's it going? My question's for John. Actually, earlier you said listen to your customers. I want to expand on that a little bit. What's the best way for shops to give feedback on your products and possible future products that you might be working on?
Just I guess my answer would be not that much different than what the answer, you know, to Chelsea's brand ambassador question. Just be a good partner for us. Just communicate. A lot of times we'll target a part and we'll obtain originals and we'll do a first run and don't really have anybody to test fit a part for us. So I mean, I'd love to have a network of shops that are willing to work with us and test fit. You know, if they happen to have if we make a part for a 67 Camaro door gasket, and which we recently did, and if we have a shop that's knowledgeable in first gen Camaros, we can send them that first run part, and if they can provide us some good feedback, you know, the molded ends fit well, you know, the length wasn't quite right. Can we tweak that a little bit? Yeah, that's easy for us to do. So just good feedback, and then you know, Chelsea referenced pictures of parts in progress. We love to get things like that in product development, so we can kind of see how the part is going on the vehicle. We can share that with our customer service people. And give them an idea. Gives them an idea how the part's installed. When a customer does buy that part, our customer service people can speak knowledgeably because we've received good feedback from a shop the pitfalls, or do this, do that, do this in this process. Put the windshield gasket on the glass first, and then put it in the vehicle. All that kind of stuff's really helpful. So like good communication with a shop is excellent. I love it. I love it when we can get it. We're actually working with a shop in California on some international Scout parts, and they've been a really good partner. They sent us some originals. We made some parts for them. We sent the first run samples to them. They gave us some feedback on it. We tweaked it a little bit, kind of, went back and forth a bit of time, and developed the finished part, and it's doing well for us. So yeah, love it.
All right, so I've got one last question. Danny, I'm going to ask you, just touch on something that you mentioned earlier about the 3D printing. How do you guys as a company, how do you evolve with technology? As I know early on, your grandpa started it with tools and dies and all that. And how is the industry changing and technology changing, and where does that put you with the technology? Where do you see steel rubber products going?
It's funny. I would say in a lot of ways we're ahead of the curve, and in a lot of ways we're behind the curve. And maybe a lot of businesses can relate to that. With rubber stuff and tool and die, a lot doesn't change very quickly for the level of what we're doing. We're not doing precision manufacturing per se. When you start talking about machines, but yeah. So everything back in the day was done on milling machines and hand turned, and of course we've got CNCs, and a lot of the technology comes from needs. You need to do something faster. You need to do it more efficient. You need to do it cheaper. So as a manufacturer, you're always looking at technology on how you can do things more efficiently, or perhaps with less people, or how do you do this automatically? So the 3D printing came out because we got the 3D printer a little late from the world of 3D printers, but whenever we're going to be cutting metal on a CNC machine, that's tremendously expensive, and we've had expensive mistakes. So the 3D printing is just super cheap as far as prototyping and making sure your designs are right. But we're looking at all these parts we want to make, and we're like, the tooling would be astronomical. And we're like, could you ever 3D print a part? So then we start researching the kind of materials that we have, because if we're going to 3D print a part and put our name on it, we want to make sure it's a quality material. So it's not there yet. It's very close. It will be there at some point. So we're staying with our ears to the ground there. And where are our bottlenecks? Okay, design is a tremendous bottleneck. Part of the reason is we have to send parts out to get scanned, and that's a 2-week process to get it back. And God forbid if it's a bad scan. So, we get our own scanner. So we vertically integrate in a lot of ways for those functions, but it really comes out of necessity and making sure that as a business, we're being as efficient as possible and what our options are for that, to create those efficiencies.
Well, thank you for taking the time. We see a lot of, as we talk to companies, we see a lot of similarities in the way that you have to approach business in general and the evolution of our technology. It's happening, like you say, faster and faster. The products are materials are better, and so that there is a lot changing in the industry right now. But what doesn't change and will never change is what the industry is based on, and that's relationships. And it'll never go away, the need for relationships between manufacturers, shops, customers, all that. And so what we really appreciate about companies like Steele Rubber, especially being around as long as you have, is you manufacture a superior product. There's a lot of shops that trust you as a company and your products, and that's really what it comes down to, is the relationship, and knowing that you can trust the people that you're working with. And so we're grateful to be associated with Steele Rubber as CarBuff Network. We've appreciated it, and I know that the products that you manufacture are products that we want to be associated with. And in fact, on the car that we're taking to SEMA this year, there's a lot of Steele Rubber products on that car. And so we appreciate what you're doing for the industry and helping to move technology forward, and aside from technology, just promoting good relationships in the industry, and doing what you're doing in SEMA, and in all the efforts that you put in there. We appreciate that as well. So, all right, everybody, thanks.
Well, we appreciate it too. Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.